Let's bring in Ian Rapoport, NFL.com insider. And Ian, let me start with the Jets. What are the Jets doing?
The Jets are listening. And if you don't know, then you definitely heard Joe Douglas, the general manager, say it about 10 times from the podium yesterday. And it's funny because it's sort of it's a little bit of a controversial thing now, especially when Jamal Adams came out and said, that the GM lied to him, that they were shopping him. My understanding is that is not true. The Jets did not go out and shop Jamal Adams. They didn't go out and say, this is a guy we want to trade. By contrast, the Atlanta Falcons very much wanted to trade Vic Beasley and his hefty salary and his low production. They shopped him. It didn't happen, but they wanted to trade him. The Jets are basically doing the opposite. What they're doing is we will listen to any offer, except for maybe Darnold and Quinn Williams. We would be open to a huge blockbuster trade. If someone gives us something like the Jaguars got for Jalen Ramsey, we would move one of the faces of our franchise, but only if we get that kind of deal. So they held out, from what I'm told, for a first-round pick and 2 seconds. That is what the Jets wanted for Jamal Adams. That is a massive haul of picks. They didn't get it, so they didn't trade him. But he's frustrated because his name did come up in trade talks, but this is kind of the other side of having a GM that's open-minded.
Yeah, but you have two guys who were protected, and everybody else was up for grabs for the Jets. Are they trying to tank now?
No, they're just trying to build. And look, Jamal Adams is a great player. He is a great player. He's a dynamic player. He's a leader. He also wasn't drafted by your GM. Your coach wasn't there when he was picked. I think there's just a different sort of attachment and obviously Darnold and Quinn Williams weren't either because the GM came in late. But I think there's a different attachment when you have a GM who took these players versus a GM who's coming in and just taking over. The other thing is the Jets need to build an offensive line. They need receivers. They need a lot. Really, they need a lot of things. So sacrificing one player for 3 premier picks is a way to build a football team. And although it gets everybody upset, it has proven successful in the past that is a way you can build your team.
Yeah, but then Le'Veon Bell, was there a market for Le'Veon Bell to be traded?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
No, and, it's funny because I actually heard that on Monday that someone had called, because I think everyone knows that Joe Douglas, the new Jets GM, is pretty open-minded. So they got a couple calls on Le'Veon Bell on Monday. From what I understand, there weren't offers and whatever inquiries weren't serious. So, as I kind of go through what to report, what not to report, I knew it wasn't happening. I knew it wasn't serious. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make a big deal of it if it's literally never happening. It's like, when someone calls about a great player, hey, would you trade us, Odell or whatever? I don't know. That didn't happen, by the way, but I'm just saying. You sort of choose not to report it because nothing's really going to happen. That was my situation with Le'Veon. I don't think it got close. He's due 13 fully guaranteed next year. I don't think anyone's trading for that contract.
Best trade rumor you heard?
I appreciated the Redskins calling and asking if the Browns would trade him Denzel Ward for Trent Williams. I mean, he's a shutdown corner. He's one of the best young players in football. Someone trying to trade for him is pretty great. People calling the Texans on DeAndre Hopkins, something I heard about a couple of weeks ago, was pretty great. I actually had a conversation with a Texans person about that, and the response I got was, will you stop calling me? He had 11 catches last week. We're not trading DeAndre Hopkins. Leave me alone. And I was like, okay, all right, great talk. Have a great day. And that was the conversation.
Was it a good day for the Redskins that Trent Williams decided to show up even though he's not going to play?
I don't know for sure that he's not going to play. Okay. I know the Redskins had a conversation with him yesterday and came out thinking that there's a good chance he's going to practice if he passes physical. So I saw the reports. I had not confirmed that he was refusing to play. It was brought up to me as a possibility, maybe he's going to do a sort of Jalen Ramsey with his back injury or something like that. But I think, he also would probably want to get paid. And if you don't play, you don't really get – once you show up, there's not a lot of options for not playing. I mean, you can fake an injury, which I feel like everybody would see through that. Other than that, once you show up, if you stop showing up, you basically have no recourse. I mean, the other thing is the Redskins are going to try to trade him in the offseason. I really do think they will get better than the second-round pick they were offered yesterday. They might get a 1 in, say, February or March.
The Patriots kick the tires on anybody? Tight end, another wide receiver, offensive lineman?
Yep, definitely did. They tried for a couple tight ends. I know they were interested in Tyler Eifert and O.J. Howard. I know they were two interested in. A couple receivers. I think, and honestly, like a lot of people, when the 49ers traded for Emmanuel Sanders, a lot of people looked at their receivers and said, like, who could we trade for? Because they figured they were dumping one. They didn't end up doing it, but I know there was interest. The two problems with the Patriots. One, they didn't have any money. I mean, they did have money, but they didn't have any cap space. Antonio Brown is still tying up a lot of their cap space. So they just didn't have really any room. The other thing was, I'm not sure if people really are dying to trade with the Patriots, because you trade someone, one of your players, he goes there and plays great, and it ends up looking terribly. Like, the Lions were probably going to cut Kyle Van Noy, and he's become like a really, really solid player in a Patriots historically awesome defense. I don't think anybody wants to deal with that backlash.
I like how the Dolphins are getting credit for selling their stock sooner than like dumping their stock. You know, they picked up Aqib Talib, and like we're crediting the Dolphins for being front office tanking here.
It's really basketball style tanking. And the reality is Sashi Brown, who is no longer in football, he sort of set the foundation for this by doing this with Brock Osweiler. Basically, you know, it was $16 million for a second-round pick, and Brock Osweiler basically was the player that got traded away. So basically, what the Miami Dolphins did was they paid $4 million for a fifth-rounder. Talib's never going to play for them. He's not even going to report. He's going to rehab on his own. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think he's going to be in a Dolphins uniform when they're like, 2-12 or something in December. Basically, they paid $4 million for a fifth-rounder. They obviously believe that is worth it. They need to spend money. They're spending very little money against the cap this year and next year. Some would argue that's not worth it for a player that may not make your roster. Basically, it's a $4 million lottery ticket for a player that has a less than 50% chance to make your roster. That is an interesting gamble.
Ian, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
All right. Always good to talk to you, man. Take care.
That's Ian Rapoport, NFL Network insider.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.